Get off this aircraft before I have security remove you. Claire Whitmore snapped, her voice slicing through the polished cabin of the Gulfstream like a warning alarm. Marcus Bennett stood beside the cream leather seat at the center of the jet, one hand resting calmly at his side, the other holding a phone Claire had just tried to take from him. The cabin had gone still. Even the soft hum of the ventilation system seemed to fade beneath the weight of what had happened. Claire's hand had crossed a line moments earlier, and now she stood with her chin raised, certain the uniform on her shoulders gave her the final word. Marcus slowly touched the edge of his jaw, not with fear, but with disbelief sharpened into focus. Across from him, Richard Hale remained seated in the owner's chair, a glass of sparkling water balanced between his fingers as though none of this concerned him. He wore a tailored navy suit, silver cuff links, and the relaxed expression of a man accustomed to being believed before he spoke. "You heard her," Richard said. "This flight is for invited guests." Marcus looked at him, then at Claire, then toward Captain Ethan Cole near the cockpit door. No one moved. No one checked the records. No one asked why Marcus had entered through a secured hangar, passed 2 identity scanners, and walked directly onto a private aircraft without being stopped. They had already decided what made sense to them. A black man in a charcoal sweater, dark jeans, and plain sneakers could not possibly belong inside a jet worth more than $70 million. Therefore, the system had to be wrong. Claire folded her arms. "People like you don't own aircraft like this." The words landed harder than the silence that followed them. Emily Foster, the youngest crew member, stood near the galley with a tablet pressed against her chest. Her eyes moved from Marcus to the screen she had scanned less than 5 minutes earlier. She had seen the clearance level. She had seen the name. But Claire had closed the record before anyone else could read it. Marcus glanced at the gold-trimmed clock mounted above the cabin wall. 8:42 a.m. Then he looked back at Claire. His expression did not rise to meet her anger. It settled beneath it, steady and controlled. 10 minutes, he said. Claire gave a short laugh. 10 minutes until what? Marcus slipped his phone into his pocket. Until every person in this cabin understands what you just chose to do. Ethan stepped forward, his captain's badge catching the morning light through the oval windows. "Sir, threats will not help your situation." Marcus turned toward him. That was not a threat. It was a timeline. Richard leaned back in the seat and smirked. "Call security and end this." Claire reached for the cabin intercom, confident that authority still belonged to her. Marcus did not stop her. He did not raise his voice. He did not reveal his title. Instead, he watched each person make one more decision without the truth getting in their way. Outside, the jet waited beneath the bright Texas sun, fueled and ready for a flight to New York. Inside, the crew believed they were preparing to remove an intruder. They had no idea the man standing before them had designed the company's aviation division, signed the purchase agreement for the aircraft, and approved every contract that paid their salaries. Marcus looked at the clock again. 9 minutes remained. 8 minutes remained when Marcus first heard the low electronic chime from the tablet in Emily Foster's hands. She looked down quickly, then glanced toward Claire, who was still speaking into the intercom with the confidence of someone who believed the cabin belonged to her. Marcus noticed the movement, but said nothing. He had learned long ago that truth often entered a room quietly. 10 minutes earlier, before the raised voices and the accusations, he had crossed the private hangar alone beneath the white Texas morning light. No assistant walked beside him. No driver carried his bag. No executive badge hung from his neck. He wore the same charcoal sweater, dark jeans, and clean sneakers he chose whenever he wanted to see how people behaved without the protection of a title. The inspection had been his idea. 3 complaints had reached his office in less than 2 months, each describing crew members who treated passengers differently based on clothing, accent, race, or perceived status. The reports had been buried beneath polite corporate language. Miscommunication, security concern, service disagreement. Marcus did not trust soft words used to hide hard prejudice. He wanted to witness the culture himself. At the entrance to the jet bridge, Emily had greeted him with a nervous smile and asked for his access code. Marcus provided it. Her tablet flashed green. Owner clearance. Unrestricted access. For 1 second, she stared at the screen as if she had seen something unexpected. Then Claire appeared behind her. "There must be an error," Claire had said, closing the record before Emily could speak. Marcus had asked her to check again. Claire had not checked. She had looked at his clothes, then at the aircraft, and decided which one did not belong. Now, inside the cabin, that choice was tightening around her. Emily's tablet chimed again. This time she turned it slightly away from Claire. Marcus caught a glimpse of the restored record. His full name, his photograph, his authority level. Claire ended the intercom call and faced him. "Security is on the way," she said. "You still have time to leave without making this worse." Marcus looked toward the forward window, where 2 ground vehicles remained parked beside the hangar doors. No security team had arrived. "Not yet. You keep saying worse," he replied. "You have not considered who it will become worse for." Captain Ethan Cole shifted near the cockpit entrance. His expression had changed. He was watching Emily now. Richard Hale noticed it too. "What is on that screen?" Richard asked. Claire stepped between him and Emily. "Nothing relevant." Emily tightened her grip on the tablet. Her voice was low at first. The record came back. Claire turned slowly. "I told you to close it." "I did," Emily said. The system reopened it automatically. Marcus watched the silence move through the cabin. It reached Ethan first, then Richard, then Claire. 7 minutes remained. 6 minutes remained. Claire's face hardened as she reached for Emily's tablet. Emily stepped back before Claire could take it, and that small movement changed the air inside the cabin. It was not rebellion. It was hesitation finally becoming courage. "Hand it over," Claire said. Emily shook her head. "The access record is valid." Ethan Cole moved away from the cockpit entrance, trying to keep his voice even. "Emily, follow procedure." "I am following procedure," she replied. "The system shows owner-level clearance." Richard Hale set his glass down. The relaxed expression on his face disappeared. "Owner level for what?" Claire answered too quickly. "It is a software error." Marcus watched her carefully. Fear had entered her voice, but pride was still trying to cover it. "Then verify it," he said. "Use the aircraft registration." Claire did not move. Marcus continued. "The tail number is November 742 Bravo Mike. The holding company is Bennett Aviation Holdings. The purchase was finalized in Savannah 18 months ago." Ethan's eyes narrowed. Those were not details a stranger should know. Richard stood from the cream leather seat, but he did not step away from it. "Anyone can memorize public information," he said. Marcus turned toward him. "The ownership structure is not public." Silence settled again. Outside the window, a fuel truck rolled slowly across the concrete, its amber light turning beneath the Texas sun. Inside, Claire tapped the screen and opened the passenger manifest. Marcus's name was gone. Emily saw it immediately. So did Ethan. "There," Claire said, holding the tablet out like proof. "He is not listed." Marcus looked at the screen, then at Emily. "Was my name there when you scanned me?" Emily swallowed. "Yes." Claire snapped her head toward her. "You are mistaken." "No," Emily said, stronger this time. "I saw Marcus Bennett. Unrestricted access." Richard gave a short, dismissive laugh. "Then someone hacked the system." Marcus studied him. "You seem very comfortable benefiting from an error." Richard's expression tightened. "This seat was assigned to me." "By whom?" Marcus asked. Richard glanced at Claire. That glance answered more than words could. Ethan noticed it too. Claire stepped forward. "Mr. Hale is an authorized guest." "Authorized by the owner?" Marcus asked. Claire said nothing. Emily lowered her eyes to the tablet and opened the activity log. A red line appeared beneath the manifest. "Manual change. 8:39 a.m. User identification, C. Whitmore." Her breath caught. Claire saw the entry and reached for the device again. "Close that screen." Emily pulled it against her chest. "You removed his name." Ethan's face lost color. Richard stepped away from the owner's seat at last. Marcus remained still. He did not need to accuse anyone. The system had begun speaking for him. 5 minutes remained. 4 minutes remained. Claire stared at the activity log as if the red line might disappear if she refused to acknowledge it. Emily held the tablet close, her hands trembling, but her voice did not. "You changed the manifest after he boarded." Ethan moved toward her with a careful step. "Emily, give me the device." She looked at him. Why? The question was simple, but it struck the cabin like a locked door. Ethan stopped. Richard Hale stood beside the owner's seat now, no longer touching it, his confidence thinning by the second. "This is getting out of control," he said. Marcus turned toward him. "No. It is becoming visible." Claire drew a breath and forced her expression back into something professional. The manifest was corrected because his entry was unauthorized. Emily looked down at the screen. Then why does the system show that his credentials were approved before the change? Claire did not answer. The silence gave Emily room, and she used it. She opened the secondary access record, the one Claire had not managed to erase. The screen displayed Marcus's photograph, his full legal name, and a level of authorization marked in gold. Emily read it aloud. Marcus Bennett, founder, executive owner, unrestricted fleet access. Richard's face tightened. Ethan's gaze moved slowly from the tablet to Marcus. Claire stepped forward again. That database is internal. He could have manipulated it. Marcus gave her a steady look. You are running out of explanations. A figure appeared outside the open cabin door. Luis Ramirez, one of the senior ground engineers, had been drawn by the raised voices. He stopped at the entrance and looked directly at Marcus. Recognition moved across his face. Mr. Bennett? Claire spun toward him. You are not needed here. Luis ignored her. I met him at the Fort Worth Operations Review last spring. Ethan's shoulders dropped slightly. Claire's did not. Return to the hangar floor, she ordered. Luis looked at the tablet in Emily's hands, then at the empty space beside the owner's seat. Is there a problem? There is now, Marcus said. Luis stepped inside. Sir, I can verify your identity through maintenance control. Claire blocked his path. You will do no such thing. The words came too fast, too sharp, and everyone heard what fear sounded like when it tried to dress itself as authority. Emily lifted the tablet. We do not need another verification. We already have 3. Marcus looked around the cabin, not at Claire alone, but at every person who had watched the truth arrive and still hesitated to accept it. This was never a lack of information, he said. It was a refusal to believe the information because of who was standing in front of you. Ethan lowered his eyes. Richard said nothing. Luis remained beside Emily. For the first time, Marcus was no longer standing alone. 3 minutes remained. 2 minutes remained. The cabin door was still open, but no one moved toward it. The bright Texas morning poured across the carpet, catching the edge of the gold cabin clock and the tension written across every face. Claire looked from Emily to Luis, then to Ethan, searching for someone willing to restore the authority she had lost. This is still a security matter, she said. We cannot allow an unidentified person to interfere with a scheduled flight. Emily lifted the tablet higher. He is identified. Luis nodded. And verified. Ethan finally spoke, but his voice lacked the certainty it had carried before. Claire, step away from the manifest. She turned on him. You were the one who approved Mr. Hale. Richard Hale's eyes sharpened. Do not bring me into your crew dispute. Marcus watched the blame begin to move around the cabin. It traveled quickly, looking for the weakest place to land. Claire pointed toward him. He entered without an escort. He refused instructions. He created the disruption. Marcus looked at her with quiet precision. I entered through secured access. I answered every question. You changed the record. Claire reached toward the tablet again, but Emily moved beside Luis. The gesture was small, yet it drew a clear line. Claire stopped. For a moment, Marcus remembered another line drawn years earlier. He was 17, standing outside a private airport lounge beside his mother. She wore a Navy service uniform and carried a small paper bag containing medication for an elderly passenger she had been assisting. A supervisor had looked at her badge, then at her face, and told her to wait outside until someone more appropriate could enter. Marcus had watched his mother explain herself twice. He had watched the man hear every word and believe none of them. She had not raised her voice. She had simply handed the medication to someone else and walked away with dignity intact, though the insult followed them all the way home. That night, Marcus learned that proof did not always defeat prejudice. Sometimes people saw the truth and rejected it because the lie made them feel more powerful. The memory passed through him and was gone, leaving only focus. This is the part you will all remember, Marcus said. Richard folded his arms. Is that another threat? No, Marcus replied. It is the moment when each of you decides whether to correct what happened or protect it. Ethan looked toward Emily's screen. Claire, did you remove his name? She hesitated. That hesitation answered him. I adjusted the list to prevent confusion, she said. Luis let out a slow breath. Emily's expression fell, not from surprise, but from disappointment. Marcus reached into his pocket and took out his phone. Claire stepped forward. "You are not authorized to record the crew." "I am not recording you," he said. "I am calling the person who controls this aircraft's operations." He selected Naomi Brooks's number and waited through one ring. She answered immediately. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett." The color left Claire's face. Marcus kept his eyes on the clock. "Naomi, begin the 10-minute shutdown." Her voice remained calm. "Understood." Freezing departure authority, preserving cabin records, and notifying legal now. A soft alert sounded from the cockpit. Ethan turned toward it. 1 minute remained. The final minute began with a warning tone from the cockpit, low and mechanical, followed by a message across the flight display. Departure authority suspended. Ethan Cole stepped inside the cockpit and tried the system again, but the same notice returned. Marcus remained near the center of the cabin with the phone at his ear. Naomi Brooks was already moving through the shutdown sequence with the calm efficiency of someone who had prepared for this exact kind of failure. "Cabin records are preserved," she said. "The manifest history has been copied. Legal counsel is joining now. Fleet control has locked the aircraft in place." Claire stared toward the cockpit. "That is impossible." Marcus looked at her. "Only if you still believe I am the person you decided I was." Richard Hale took out his own phone and began typing quickly. "I have people at Bennett Aeronautics," he said. "I will clear this up." Naomi's voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Hale's company contact privileges have been temporarily suspended pending review." Richard stopped typing. His confidence cracked in silence. Ethan returned from the cockpit, his face pale. "The flight plan has been canceled." "Not canceled," Marcus said. "Frozen." Claire stepped toward him, but Luis moved slightly between them without touching either person. Emily still held the tablet, the activity log glowing against her hands. "Claire," Ethan said, "tell me exactly why you changed the manifest." She looked at him with open disbelief. "You knew Mr. Hale was taking the seat." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I knew he was an approved guest." "You knew the owner was not supposed to appear," Claire replied. The words escaped before she could stop them. The cabin went still. Marcus lowered the phone slightly. "Not supposed to appear?" Richard turned toward Claire. "What did you tell them?" She looked from Richard to Ethan, realizing too late that every answer opened another door. "This was supposed to be a private client flight," she said. "Mr. Hale was promised full use of the aircraft." Marcus's eyes sharpened. "Promised by whom?" Claire said nothing. Naomi filled the silence. "The aircraft schedule shows no approved client charter for this morning. There is no billing authorization, no board approval, and no owner consent." Richard stepped away from the seat completely. "I was told this was part of the negotiation package." Marcus faced him. "You were offered private use of company property by people who did not own it." Ethan lowered his head. Emily opened another screen. "There is a deleted service note," she said. "It says to remove any unexpected passenger before departure." Claire's breathing changed. That note was operational. Operational for what? Luis asked. Emily read the timestamp. Entered last night by Claire Whitmore. The gold clock reached 8:52 a.m. 10 minutes had passed since Marcus gave the warning. At that exact moment, every crew tablet went dark, then restarted with a single message. Access suspended pending executive review. Claire looked down at her device. Ethan checked his. Richard's guest credentials disappeared from the cabin screen. Marcus ended the call with Naomi and placed the phone back in his pocket. He had not raised his voice. He had not moved from his ground. Yet the entire structure around them had changed. "Your 10 minutes are over," he said. "Now the truth gets the cabin." The cabin screen flickered once, then filled with the Bennett Aeronautics seal in deep blue and silver. Beneath it appeared a live connection from the company operations center in Dallas. Daniel Reed, the director of flight operations, sat at the head of a conference table with corporate counsel on one side and 3 members of the board on the other. No one inside the aircraft spoke. Daniel looked directly into the camera. "Mr. Bennett, ownership control has been restored. The aircraft is secured, all system records are preserved, and the board is ready for your direction." Claire stared at Marcus as though the man before her had changed, but he had not changed at all. He wore the same charcoal sweater. His voice remained calm. His posture remained steady. The only difference was that the truth now had a screen large enough for everyone to see. Marcus turned toward Emily. "Display the original access record." She connected her tablet to the cabin system. His photograph appeared beside his full name, followed by founder, chief executive officer, and principal owner. Below it was the purchase record for the aircraft and the executive authorization bearing his signature. Richard Hale slowly removed his hand from the back of the cream leather seat. Ethan stood near the cockpit entrance, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. Claire tried to speak first. "Mr. Bennett, there has been a serious misunderstanding." Marcus faced her. "A misunderstanding ends when the facts arrive." He nodded toward the screen. "You saw my clearance and called it an error. Emily confirmed my identity and you threatened her. Luis recognized me and you ordered him away. Then you erased my name because the truth interfered with what you had already decided." Claire's lips parted, but no answer came. Marcus turned to Richard. "You were sitting in my seat because they believed your appearance made you more believable than my credentials." Richard straightened his jacket. "I accepted what the crew offered. I did not know who you were." "That is the problem," Marcus replied. "You believed I deserved disrespect because you thought I was nobody." Daniel spoke from the screen. "We have also recovered the deleted scheduling note and the unauthorized offer made to Mr. Hale's company." Richard's expression tightened. Claire looked toward Ethan, but Ethan stepped farther away from her. Marcus allowed the silence to settle. It was no longer the silence of uncertainty. It was the silence that comes when excuses have nowhere left to hide. "You did not need to recognize a chief executive officer," he said. "You needed to recognize a human being standing in front of you with valid access and a calm voice." He looked at Claire without anger. "You tried to erase my name from the manifest. You forgot that the name was still written across the company." Emily lowered the tablet. Luis stood beside her. On the cabin screen, each suspended credential remained visible. Claire finally understood that the power she had performed inside the cabin had never belonged to her. Marcus looked toward Daniel. "Proceed with the personnel review. Every decision will be based on the record, not on panic, rank, or appearance." Daniel nodded. "Understood, Mr. Bennett." The cabin door remained open to the bright Texas morning, but no one moved. The reveal had not made Marcus more powerful. It had only forced everyone else to see the power they had refused to believe was his. Daniel Reed opened the personnel file on the cabin screen, and the names appeared one by one beneath the company seal. Claire Whitmore stood frozen near the galley. Ethan Cole remained beside the cockpit, and Richard Hale watched the screen with the guarded expression of a man trying to calculate how much damage had already been done. Marcus did not rush. He had spent years building systems designed to survive pressure, and now those systems were doing exactly what they were meant to do. Daniel spoke first. "The record confirms unauthorized use of company property, alteration of the passenger manifest, obstruction of identity verification, retaliation against an employee, and discriminatory conduct during a security escalation." Claire shook her head. "I was protecting the aircraft." Emily looked at her. "You were protecting a story you created." Claire turned sharply, but Marcus lifted one hand. The cabin settled again. "Emily will finish," he said. Her voice was quiet, but clear. "She saw the owner clearance before anyone else. She closed the record. She told me not to reopen it. When the system restored the name, she removed it from the manifest." Ethan looked toward the floor. Daniel opened a second file. "Captain Cole, the record shows you approved the removal request without reviewing the access log. It also shows you knew Mr. Hale had been promised private use of the aircraft without authorization." Ethan finally looked at Marcus. "I should have stopped it." "Yes," Marcus said. "You should have." Ethan did not argue. Richard stepped forward. "My company negotiated in good faith." Daniel answered before Marcus could. "Your communications include a message thanking Claire for arranging exclusive use of the aircraft outside the contract." Richard's face tightened. "That was presented as a courtesy." Marcus looked at him. "A courtesy built on property you did not own and a seat you were willing to keep while another man was treated as an intruder." Richard had no answer. Daniel waited for Marcus's direction. Marcus looked at Claire first. "Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." Her confidence finally broke. "You cannot make this decision over one incident." "This was not one incident," Marcus replied. "This was a chain of choices, and every choice moved in the same direction." He turned to Ethan. "You were suspended pending final review for failure of command and participation in unauthorized operations." Ethan nodded once. Then Marcus addressed Richard. "All negotiations with your company are suspended. Your guest access is revoked." Richard opened his mouth, But Marcus continued. You will leave this aircraft without the contract you expected and without the illusion that silence made you innocent. Daniel confirmed each action as it was entered into the system. Claire's credential disappeared from the screen. Ethan's status changed to suspended. Richard's company access turned red, then closed. Marcus looked toward Emily and Luis. Emily Foster remains on duty and will be protected under the company reporting policy. Luis Ramirez will provide a full statement to legal. Emily exhaled slowly, as though she had been holding her breath since the first scan. Marcus faced the entire cabin. No one is being punished for failing to recognize me. They are being held accountable for what they chose to do after the truth was placed in front of them. Outside, 2 corporate security officers approached the open cabin door, not to remove Marcus, but to escort out the people who had tried to remove him. The balance of the room changed without shouting, applause, or spectacle. Claire stepped toward the exit. Ethan followed. Richard paused beside the owner's seat, then walked past it without looking back. Marcus remained where he had stood from the beginning, calm, steady, and finally surrounded by a system that had chosen facts over prejudice. The cabin felt larger after they left, not because there were fewer people inside, but because the pressure had finally lifted. Morning light stretched across the cream carpet and reached the empty owner's seat, the same seat that had become the center of an argument built on appearance, assumption, and borrowed authority. Marcus stood beside it for a moment, then turned toward Emily and Luis. Neither of them spoke. They were still processing how quickly a normal workday had exposed the deepest weakness inside the company. Daniel Reed remained on the cabin screen. The replacement crew can be here within 40 minutes, he said. Marcus looked toward the runway beyond the oval windows. The jet was fueled. The weather was clear. New York was only a few hours away. There will be no flight this morning, Marcus replied. Bring the operations team to the hangar. We are holding the meeting here. Daniel nodded. Understood. Within minutes, department leaders began entering through the open cabin door. Human resources, flight safety, legal counsel, crew management. They took their places quietly, some standing near the galley, others filling the seats that had witnessed everything. Marcus waited until the last person arrived. He did not stand behind a podium. He remained in the aisle where Claire had first questioned whether he belonged. Today was not a failure of recognition, he said. It was a failure of character, policy, and courage. Every face turned toward him. No employee should need to know that someone is wealthy, powerful, or important before offering basic dignity. A passenger with no title deserves the same fairness I expected here. That is the standard. He looked toward Emily. Speaking up should not require risking a career. Then he looked toward Luis. And verification should never be ignored because the answer makes someone uncomfortable. Marcus announced 5 immediate changes. No passenger record could be altered without a second authorization and a permanent audit trail. Any security removal would require verified evidence, not suspicion based on clothing, race, accent, or perceived status. Crew members would receive independent authority to challenge discriminatory instructions without retaliation. Cabin systems would automatically preserve records whenever access was disputed. Every complaint involving bias would be reviewed outside the employee's direct chain of command. No quiet burial. No convenient language. No protection for rank. Emily listened with tears gathering in her eyes, though she kept her posture steady. Marcus noticed and softened his voice. You did the right thing before you knew whether it would protect you. That matters. She nodded. I almost stayed silent. Courage is not the absence of hesitation, Marcus said. It is choosing truth before hesitation chooses for you. Outside the aircraft, employees had begun gathering across the hangar floor. Word had traveled quickly, but Marcus did not allow the story to become gossip or spectacle. He addressed them through the open cabin doorway. I can replace a flight crew by sunset, he said. What I refuse to replace is one form of prejudice with another. Accountability is not revenge. It is how a company proves what it truly values. The hangar remained silent. Marcus looked once more at the aircraft, then at the people responsible for its future. The test was never whether they recognized the owner. The test was how they treated the man they believed had no power. He stepped down onto the concrete beside Emily and Luis. Behind them, the jet remained grounded beneath the Texas sun. It would fly again. But the culture that had allowed prejudice to enter the cabin would not be cleared for departure.